Imagine a peaceful neighborhood in Colorado, 1981. Suddenly, this tranquility is shattered by a gruesome discovery. This is not a tale of fiction but a chilling account of reality. In the heart of this serene suburb, nestled on South Ogden Street in Cherry Hills Village, a horrifying scene unfolded. Sylvia Quale, a vibrant woman of 34, was found lifeless within the confines of her own home. The one to stumble upon this harrowing sight was none other than her own father, a moment that would haunt him for the rest of his days. The tranquility of the town was replaced by a chilling mystery. The local police swung into action, the crime scene was cordoned off, and an immediate investigation was launched. Every clue was meticulously examined, every lead pursued. Yet the mystery surrounding Sylvia's untimely demise deepened. Despite the efforts of the local police, the case went cold, leaving Sylvia's family and the community searching for answers. This, however, was not the end of Sylvia's story but just the beginning. Years turned into decades and the case of Sylvia Quale remained unsolved, but it was never forgotten. In the immediate aftermath of the chilling discovery, the police worked diligently, following every lead, questioning every possible suspect. The small, tight-knit community of Cherry Hills Village was shaken to its core, and the pressure was on to find justice for Sylvia. Yet despite their best efforts, the leads all ended in frustrating dead ends. There was the suspicious neighbor who had been seen lurking around Sylvia's property, but his alibi was rock solid. Then there was the estranged ex-boyfriend with a history of violent behavior, but he was halfway across the country at the time of Sylvia's murder. The police even considered a random act of violence by an unknown transient, but there was no evidence to support this theory. As months turned into years, the case grew cold. The leads dried up, the trail went cold, and the answers seemed as elusive as ever. Yet, the detectives never gave up. Sylvia's case file was never far from their desks, a constant reminder of the justice that was still out of reach. Over the years, the case was revisited numerous times. Fresh eyes pored over the evidence, new investigative techniques were applied, and even the advent of DNA technology in the late 20th century brought renewed hope. Yet each time the result was the same. The case remained a mystery, a haunting question mark that lingered over the community. 40 years passed, Sylvia's friends and family grew older, the world changed. But the mystery of who took Sylvia's life remained. It seemed like the case was destined to become another unsolved mystery, another tragic tale of justice denied. The case seemed destined to remain unsolved until a surprising breakthrough came from the most unexpected place. In 2021, 40 years since Sylvia's tragic demise, a soda can would become the key to unlocking this cold case. When we cast our minds back to the early 80s, DNA technology was in its infancy. The ability to capture and analyze genetic material was a burgeoning field, still years away from being the powerhouse of forensic investigation it is today. But as the decades rolled on, the science of DNA evolved, becoming more precise, more insightful, and ultimately, more revelatory. Fast forward to the 21st century, where DNA technology is now at the forefront of solving crimes. Cold cases, long forgotten by many, are being reopened and re-examined with a fresh set of eyes and a new arsenal of scientific tools. Sylvia Quale's case was one of these, sitting dormant for 40 long years until a simple soda can breathed new life into the investigation. In an astonishing twist of fate, a discarded soda can became the beacon of hope for investigators. It was collected from a trash bin, not unlike countless others that people throw away every day. But this can was different. This ordinary piece of garbage held extraordinary secrets. On it were traces of DNA, the genetic blueprint that makes each of us unique. With the advancements in DNA technology, investigators were able to extract and analyze the genetic material from the can. They ran the DNA profile through a nationwide database looking for a match. And there it was. A hit, an echo from the past, reaching out to the present. The soda can, once discarded without a second thought, had become a vessel of truth. It held the key to unlocking a mystery that had remained unsolved for 4 decades. It provided the breakthrough that investigators had been yearning for all these years. The soda can led investigators to a man named David Dwayne Anderson, a name previously unknown in connection to Sylvia's case. This simple can of soda had finally pointed the finger at a suspect, bringing Sylvia one step closer to justice. David Dwayne Anderson, a man living a quiet life in Nebraska, suddenly found himself as the prime suspect in a 40-year-old murder case. David Anderson wasn't your typical murder suspect. He was a man living a quiet life in Nebraska, far from the Colorado scene where Sylvia Quale's life was brutally taken 4 decades earlier. But as it turns out, his past was not as quiet as his present. Born and raised in Colorado, Anderson was no stranger to Cherry Hills Village. He lived a stone's throw away from Sylvia's residence on South Ogden Street. Back in the day, he was known as a bit of a drifter, someone who kept to himself and moved about without leaving much of an impression. It was this unassuming nature that allowed him to fly under the radar for so many years. In the year of 1981, the same year Sylvia's life was stolen, Anderson had a run-in with the law. He was charged for unrelated crimes, but his DNA was never entered into the system. It wasn't until a chance discovery, 4 decades later, that his name appeared on the radar in the Quale case. The breakthrough came from the most unlikely of sources: a discarded Coca-Cola can. Tossed away without a second thought, this soda can would become the key to unlocking a long-standing mystery. When the DNA found on the can matched the DNA from the crime scene, things started to fall into place. Anderson's connection to Colorado, his proximity to Sylvia, and now, the DNA match, painted a chilling picture. As the puzzle pieces came together, he was transformed from an obscure figure to the prime suspect in a murder that had haunted Cherry Hills Village for 40 years. But suspicion alone isn't enough to charge a man with murder. The investigators knew they had a long road ahead. The DNA match was compelling, but they needed more. They needed irrefutable proof, evidence that would stand up in court and bring justice for Sylvia. With the suspect identified, the only thing left to do was to prove his guilt. The evidence was compelling. The DNA from the soda can matched the DNA found at the crime scene 4 decades ago. This was the turning point, the moment that breathed life back into a cold case that had long been unsolved. The trial process began, shedding light on the truth that had been obscured in the shadows of the past. The courtroom was a theater of suspense as the prosecutors presented the evidence piece by piece. The centerpiece was the soda can, an everyday object that had become the key to unlocking justice for Sylvia Quale. The can, discarded carelessly by the suspect David Duane, was retrieved from a trash bin near the crime scene. The DNA on the can was a perfect match to the DNA found at Sylvia's home, tying Duane directly to the crime scene. The prosecution meticulously laid out the timeline of the events leading up to the tragedy. They painted a grim picture of the night when Sylvia was brutally taken from this world. The defense had their say, but the evidence was irrefutable. The DNA was the silent witness that spoke volumes, the voice that echoed through the years, demanding justice for Sylvia. The jury, a group of 12 ordinary individuals, held the fate of David Duane in their hands. They deliberated, sifting through the testimonies, the evidence, the facts, and the emotions that had filled the courtroom over the course of the trial. After days of intense discussion, they reached a verdict: guilty. The word hung in the air, a solemn declaration that justice had been served. David Duane, the man who had evaded capture for 4 decades, was finally held accountable for his actions. The courtroom, once filled with tension, was now filled with a sense of closure. The journey to justice was long and arduous, but in the end, the truth prevailed. After 40 years, justice was finally served for Sylvia Quale. The case of Sylvia Quale serves as a testament to the power of persistence, the importance of evidence, and the relentless pursuit of justice. The resolution of Sylvia Quale's case serves as a powerful reminder. A reminder that perseverance and tenacity, particularly in solving cold cases, can unravel the most tightly woven mysteries. Over a span of 4 decades, the relentless pursuit of truth never wavered. It's a testament to the unwavering commitment of those who seek justice, those who refuse to let the passage of time dim the illumination of truth. In this era of technological advancements, we are witnessing a revolution in crime solving. DNA technology in particular has proven to be a formidable ally. It transformed a seemingly forgotten soda can into a beacon of truth, leading investigators to Sylvia's assailant. This story is a beacon of hope for all unsolved cases out there, a beacon that shines brightly, piercing through the dense fog of uncertainty. This case proves that no matter how much time has passed, with persistence and the right tools, justice can always be achieved.